Prime Minister has spoken on cryptocurrencies as part of his speech at the Sydney Dialogue, and his comments really assume a lot of significance considering the conversation we're having right now in the country about regulation of crypto assets. So the Prime Minister says, take currency or Bitcoin, for example. He was talking about new technologies and says it's important that all democratic nations work together on this and ensure it does not end up in the wrong hands, which can spoil our youth. Now, these comments need to be seen in the context of what has happened in the last few days. Crypto exchanges and other stakeholders have had a meeting with a parliamentary committee on finance, the Standing Committee on Finance, about the future path that they will take. Meanwhile, the Reserve Bank of India governor has not once but twice talked about his concerns over crypto assets, and there has been a lot of debate over the real number of users in India, as well as the ads which have aggressively been luring people into going in for cryptocurrencies. So we're going to talk about what can be expected in terms of regulation, considering that the winter session of Parliament starting on the 29th of November is where the crypto bill will finally hopefully make an appearance. So before we get to that discussion, let's just play out for you what the Prime Minister said.
Take cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, for example. It is important that all democratic nations work together on this and ensure it does not end up in wrong hands, which can spoil our youth.
All right, joining me now on the chat are Nischal Shetty, founder and CEO of WazirX, and Mythili Bhusnurmath, consulting editor at ET Now. Welcome to both of you. Nischal, great to have you back on the show, especially at a time when so much is happening. Tell me, what is the point of view emerging within the crypto space and within players like yourselves and the association? Are there concerns over the different kind of comments coming in from the highest, levels in power?
Look, I think overall, I would say, we've at least started seeing movement in the whole regulatory landscape for crypto in India. And this was not the case about a year ago. There was no understanding of what the government was thinking or what direction this would go. And now we are here having discussions, multiple discussions. Everyone's talking about it. Our Prime Minister has tweeted about it. So I think for us, this has set the ball rolling for the regulatory process in India. We don't know how long this would take, but at least I think we are now, India is in the same league as countries like the US and EU, where they've also started these industry consultations and discussing about what's the right way to regulate this. So net-net, it's a very good movement ahead towards regulation.
Nischal, I know you can't tell me much about what has transpired in the series of meetings. We know that there has been a meeting with the Reserve Bank of India as well. It was reported in the Economic Times. We know that there has been a meeting with this parliamentary committee. But have the takeaways left you as a player in this very important space assured that there is a clear guideline or clear path ahead? Or are you concerned with the feedback you're getting from lawmakers?
Look, I think I think there's less concern, more about the fact that these discussions are happening, and now we have a way to put our points across. We have a way to share the necessary data and ensure that we can put forward what the industry stand is. I think I would see them as positive rather than a point of concern. Concern was when while we've been pushing for regulation, we've not had the opportunity to present ourselves. Now, this is a very good way forward. There will always be, in this path, there will always be some, areas that need to be improved and some areas that need to be changed. And that, as an industry, we are ready for and we want to work towards it. So I wouldn't call it a major concern, but, in general, I think the India industry is upbeat about what is happening right now. So that's a good direction to be going.
Okay, so the industry is happy that at least someone is talking to them. And it's fairly sure that the whole infrastructure which is in place right now will not be shut down tomorrow. There will be a way to regulate it. Mythili, what is your takeaway from all the different statements that are being made? For example, when the Prime Minister says today that democratic nations should come together to ensure that there is a roadmap for cryptocurrencies, they should not fall into the wrong hands and spoil our youth. What is the messaging there?
Well, it's good, Tamanna, that the government has finally woken up to the dangers of cryptocurrency, because it's not just in India, but regulators all over the world, including in most advanced countries with very advanced systems, are very concerned about the rampant spread of cryptocurrency. And let us be very clear that these are virtual currencies, so cross-border transactions that could well be violative of our foreign exchange regulations, even as they stand today, are possible. So all these exchanges, all this trading that is happening is basically a violation of our existing norms. Both at the macro and at the micro level, there are serious dangers. And before more and more Indians get dragged into this, lured into it by false advertising, promising, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, I think it's important that regulatory agencies and government step in and at least ensure that these advertisements are not so misleading. There's proper investor education and proper disclaimers are made. Meanwhile, you can work on the regulatory front, but no country anywhere in the world has been able to frame regulations for a sector which is virtually almost like trying to tame the Wild West. The only way you can do it is clamp down on all those who are violative of existing regulations. And I can say this without batting our eyelid that virtually most of the transactions in this space would be violative of some regulation or the other in India, because we are not a capital account convertible country. So how are payments being made across the borders? So we really need to track the violations and come down very heavily on these violators, even as we pursue the task of investor education, clamping down on such misleading advertisements, and ensure that all those agencies who are promoting this take due responsibility. And meanwhile, we continue talking and see how best we can tame a virtually untamable sector.
So Mythili positions it as taming. Nischal, your response to that. I also want to ask you about this recurrent concern being voiced about how cryptocurrency craze or crypto craze is impacting the youth. Now, in our earlier conversations, you've talked about how a majority of users are under the age of 40. So clearly, it is targeted at that demographic. Do you think that the way this is being communicated now will have to be tweaked?
I think as far as advertisements are concerned, there definitely needs to be an industry guideline on it. And as an industry, we are pushing for that. We are working towards that so that because we need to understand it's an unregulated sector. And when individual companies decide to advertise in the absence of guidelines, it's really it can go in any direction. And I think probably that's what is happening right now. So as an industry body, we are trying to frame guidelines and make sure that there's responsible disclosures and responsible advertisement that comes in. I agree. See, I don't think the objective should be to get someone to buy crypto in 10 seconds. I don't think that's how this would do any good for the industry. The objective should be, how do you educate people? How do you put forward the right use of this technology, what this technology means, and then let people decide what they want to do with it. So I think that should be the direction that we should go, all of us. And I think we'll all get into that direction soon. We've just recently formed a code of conduct around what exchanges should do in terms of KYCs, AML, customer support, and all of these things. And it's just version 1. So I think the next version will come up with all these guidelines around, advertisements and everything. Having said that, see, it's a rapidly evolving industry. I think 6 months ago, there was not enough money for everyone to advertise. And, probably that's why we never thought of this. And then suddenly the industry blew up. And there's so much of capital investment coming into startups now that this now seems to be the problem of the day. And we have to solve it. That's for sure.
Tamanna, if I may just intervene over here, there already are guidelines by the Advertising Standards Council of India, which very clearly state that ads should not be misleading, should not be misguided. Yeah. And in India, we already have bans on advertising of things like liquor, of tobacco. And even though, yes, we have a surrogate industry, there are already guidelines. The Advertising Standards Council of India has not played its job on this. So that is the first thing. Second thing, Nischal talked about technology. Now let's be very clear that technology is quite distinct from the product. The technology is very revolutionary. It is very far-fetched, far-reaching. So while we can use the technology, let's not confuse technology with cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, crypto assets are dangerous. The technology is good. So I think we need to segregate these two and then proceed.
Okay, so that's fine. Mythili is also echoing some concerns that the RBI has had, and the point about ASCI is correct. But Nischal, I wanted to come to you specifically on reports that you, for example, have pulled advertising while all of these concerns are around. Is that in fact the case? Are companies, crypto exchanges now going slow on advertising, and will we see a change there?
Look, I can speak only for ourselves. At WazirX, we stopped advertising, I think, 2-3 months ago. We tested them. And what we realized was those 10, 15 seconds, 30 seconds is probably not enough, given it's a new technology and it's very new for everyone. It's probably not the right time. And that's why we stopped it several months ago. And now the reports are probably showing what we foresaw to be right. So, yeah, we've stopped it. And I think till there are no proper guidelines, at least we don't want to get into it. That's what our stand is with respect to advertisements.
Yeah. Now, your response on the concerns over the impact on youth, and how do you think you can now negate some of these concerns? Will there be now more focus on teaching people, explaining to people what this is all about, and telling them in no uncertain terms about the inherent risks?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, see, I think when we talk about the youth, I think we should not underestimate the youth's understanding of this market. In fact, they understand it more than most people around, because a lot of the youngsters they're growing up with technology. It's not alien to them. They know how to manage and use technology. And I think that is what we are seeing here. They understand what blockchain is. They understand what crypto is. They understand that to build a public blockchain, it's impossible to build it without crypto, and that's where crypto comes into the picture. So this is something that we are seeing on an industry level, and I think that's the kind of education we should push forward for amongst everyone else, not just the youth. But I think the entire country should understand how blockchain works, how crypto is intertwined with public blockchains, and that will help us push this sector in the right way. But yeah, we should not be like, invest and this is going to be growing overnight. It is not. It's a long-term play. You need to realize it's a high-risk, high-return category right now, unregulated markets. So all of these have to be told. That's definitely something that we should all push for.
Yeah. Mythili, your take on crypto assets is very, very strong. Like I said, it echoes in some part what the Reserve Bank of India is also saying. But looking at the response from parliamentarians and what is being said right now about regulation, not ban, do you expect a more balanced approach when we finally see the crypto bill this winter session? What do you think is going to come out of it?
Well, I doubt the crypto bill will really talk in terms of regulatory framework, simply because there is no country in the world, as I told you, which has still cracked that. And if I can just quote what Augustin Carstens of the Bank of International Settlements, how he described cryptocurrency, he described Bitcoin rather as a combination of a bubble, a Ponzi scheme, and an environmental disaster. Because the amount of energy that is used, and we're talking on the one hand of energy conservation, we're talking about global warming. On the other hand, we want to encourage cryptos. And as Nischal said, he keeps saying crypto and blockchain. Let me repeat, the two are distinct. Yes, cryptos use blockchain, but blockchains can survive very well and do survive without cryptos. So it is wrong, I think, to kind of put them together, conflate them together. And also when he talks about their youth understanding the technology, yes, youth understands technology, but does any youngster understand that Bitcoin at one point of time was quoting at $6,000 and subsequently in a few years' time went up to $70,000 and then fell back again? How many of our youth really understand that kind of volatility? The fact that almost every transaction that we are doing when it cross borders would be violative of foreign exchange regulation. So I think the whole area is, as I said, entirely illegal, I would say. And I think the sooner the government alerts the youth that, look, we can only try and educate you. Beyond that, if you're determined to kind of, jump into the off the Qutub Minar, there's really nothing that you can do. You have to educate them, and meanwhile, the players must be tamed. They must understand responsible advertising. They must understand that they cannot promise what they cannot deliver.
Hey, you want to respond to that, Nischal?
Look, I think the whole it's a misconception that blockchain and crypto are different. It is not technically possible to run a public blockchain without crypto. It's not possible. There's no technology today that can support it. And I can go on and on around how. I'll give you an example. If I'm a software developer and I want to run a program on the Ethereum blockchain, I cannot do it without getting access to Ether, which is the crypto of that blockchain. And there is no way in the world to run a program on the Ethereum blockchain without having access to that crypto. So when we talk about blockchain is different and crypto is different, we're talking about internet and intranet. If you want to run a blockchain within your company, sure, you don't need crypto. But what's the point of that? Because the public can't use it. If you want public to use it, the only way for the public to access that blockchain is crypto. So that's where this.
I'm sorry, please. I'm very sorry, Nischal. I disagree with you very strongly. Ethereum is again a cryptocurrency. We are not talking about cryptocurrency. We're talking about blockchain, the technology which can be used to validate documents. It's very, very different. That yes, you cannot have a crypto without a blockchain, but you can have a blockchain without crypto. Let's not let's not mix up the two.
Look,
blockchains have been around since 2008. Excuse me. So it is not as if blockchain is new.
One by one. Let him respond. Let him respond, Mythili.
No, I think it's technically incorrect what she's stating. And with my 15 years of experience as a software developer, I can guarantee you that you cannot run a public blockchain without crypto. There's no technology that can support that. So I don't know. She's confusing this with the private blockchains. And private blockchains are very different. That's for running between companies and within your systems, where you can secure it by not giving access to anyone. But you can't run public blockchains without crypto. It's not technically possible. And I can stand by that, and we can do all the research and get back on this.
Okay,
but
I think
fact.
All right. But I think at the end of the day, sure. Okay, so what we want to give our viewers is to different points of view, and those are out there. I mean, I'm not an expert on this. Mythili has given her point of view. Nischal has given his point of view. But I think we're also meandering from where the conversation point is and what we're trying to say, what we're trying to understand here. The fact is, I think, Mythili, you would also agree that crypto is not going anywhere. As terrible as you believe it is, and a large number of people believe it is, that it's dangerous, it's bad, it's not going to go back into the box. So do you think that the only way forward is what is being reported right now, that it could be used as an asset, it will be taxed as an asset and regulated perhaps either under a SEBI or a different regulator which has elements of RBI, SEBI and others in it?
I'm sorry, Tabana, because there are many crypto coins, more than thousands of them, which have just disappeared completely. And people have taken huge losses. So there's no such thing as saying that cryptocurrencies don't disappear. Crypto assets, many of them have disappeared. Yes, some have continued more long term. And also let me repeat that no country, and we have seen BIS, which is the Bank of International Settlements, IOSCO, which is a body for international securities regulators, every one of them is still cracking their head around how do you really regulate this. As I said, it's a bit like taming the Wild West. The only way you can perhaps tame it is to ensure that investors know what they're getting into and tell them, look, if you get into this, you're likely to burn your fingers. I've spoken to you about the tulip bubble. This is very much like that.
All right, we'll leave it at that. And wait and watch this space very, very closely. There will be some kind of a guideline, whether it's a all-out regulation of how cryptos work, maybe not, because like the Prime Minister also said today, countries have to come together for one rule. This is something which goes across borders. Will there be enough of information on what happens if you buy this as a mode of investment? That is what we need to know, and that's what we will look forward to in the winter session of Parliament this time round. Thank you so much, Nischal and Mythili, for joining us on the debate.